Okay, so we will reconvene open session and we will start with our land acknowledgement. We recognize that the Mount Diablo Unified School District sits on the territory of the Confederated Villages of the Lishan, the ancestral and unceded land of the Bay Miwok and Northern Yokut, the successors of the sovereign Verona Band of Contra Costa County. As members of the MDUSD community, it is vitally important that we not only recognize the history of the land on which we learn, but also we recognize that the land we inhabit and learn on is the ancestral land of these people who are alive and flourishing members of MDUSD and broader Bay Area communities today. You may stand for the pledge. Okay, so we move to 6.3, review and potential approval of minutes for regular board meeting held June 12th, 2024.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the minutes for the regular board meeting held on June 12th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, motion from trustee Mason and a second from trustee Nzewi. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0. Okay, and then 6.4, review and potential approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes this evening?
No changes.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion from trustee Mason and a second from trustee Mayo. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Okay, so we move to the report out of action taken in closed sessions. For 7.1, negotiations, the board may discuss negotiations or provide direction to its representatives regarding represented employees. Government Code Section 54957.6, we received information. For 7.2, discipline, dismissal, release, or reassignment of public employee, Government Code Section 54957B1, we received information. For 7.3, public employee performance evaluation superintendent, Government Code Section 54957, we discussed an evaluation for Dr. Clark and gave him a positive evaluation. And when one detail from that evaluation includes this line: we commend Dr. Clark on his excellent leadership, focus on students, commitment to systems level lasting improvements, and unifying our educators and staff to take action around our equity goals. Dr. Clark, we're very grateful to have you here and for your leadership. It's a good crowd tonight. It really is. Okay, so and then for 7.4, readmission of student 10-23 to regular schools in the Mount Diablo Unified School District. In a vote of 5-0, the board approved the readmission of student 10-23 to regular schools in the Mount Diablo Unified School District. Student 10-23 met the following conditions: completed 20 hours of counseling that addressed decision-making and self-regulation strategy, showed evidence of a successful school experience with no suspendable infractions, maintained a 2.3 GPA, earned a 46.5 credits, and had a 93.3% attendance rate. All right, and then for item 7.5, 7.6 and 7.7, which are all liability claims. The board met in closed session and by a vote of 5-0 voted to reject a liability claim for damages pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.95 by Santina Lewis Reed against the Mount Diablo Unified School District. The board met in closed session and by a vote of 5-0 voted to reject a liability claim for damages pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.95 by Roland Cassette against the Mount Diablo Unified School District. The board met in closed session and by a vote of 5-0 voted to reject a liability claim for damages pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.95 by Brian Theodos against the Mount Diablo Unified School District. And then for 7.8, which was conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation. In the matter of one case of anticipated litigation, the board, by a vote of 5-0, gave direction to the general counsel. And in the matter of one case, anticipated litigation, the board, by a vote of 5-0, gave direction to the general counsel. And that concludes the report on our closed session items. So that moves. Yes. Okay, and so we move to public comment. The public may address the board regarding any item not on the agenda. Public comment will also be allowed on each specific agenda item prior to board action thereon. So we'll start with Michelle Hammonds. We do a 3-minute time limit.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Michelle Hammonds. I'm the executive director over at Eagle Peak Montessori School, and I'm basically just here tonight to say hello. Thank you so much. I'm working this week with a group of charter school leaders in Sacramento, and I get to tell the positive stories about the partnership that we've been able to have for the past 24 years, Linda. We're heading into our 24th year with you guys, and so I just wanted to say thank you. We have some MOUs later, but that's neither here nor there at the point, but I just want to say hi. Thank you so much for everything that you do, and thank you for supporting us and letting us do what we do. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hammonds. All right, so we move to recognitions and resolutions. Do we have another public comment? Okay, great. Communications. Of course. Yes. Sorry about that, Linda. And you were not, I usually see you in a different seat, so you were mixing it up.
Late.
I like
so
it.
Sorry.
No, you're
I
good.
was on the phone. I know.
You're welcome. We're glad to see you.
Work, right, Dr. Clark? Always work doing. So, good evening, trustees, Dr. Clark, members of the audience. For those who don't know me, I'm Linda Ortega, I'm the Mount Diablo Education Association's president. I just want to take just a few minutes to thank Dr. Clark, Dr. Rubio, Samantha Allen, Adrian Vargas, and Melanie Coslow for the meetings we recently had to collaboratively problem solve issues that would affect our students and our media members. I appreciate the willingness to meet and to discuss how we can work together to find solutions that would benefit our students. I also look forward to working with members of the superintendent's cabinet and district staff in the upcoming school year. I have made a lot of relationships in this office, and I appreciate them taking my phone calls and emails. So I want to thank them. Many of them are in this room. Finally, I want to wish everyone a happy and restful summer break, especially to our students who may be listening. Don't forget to read. Thank you.
Thank you, and that's great advice. Okay, so we move to 10.0 recognitions and resolutions. Dr. Clark.
So I have before you item 10.1, and this is the approval and appointment of the new student board member for the 24-25 school year. And I'm happy to announce that we've identified a rising senior, and the student is here this evening. And so I'm going to ask that student to please stand as I read just a little bit about a little bit about the student before we take this on to a formal vote. So Crystal Ochoa will be a senior at Olympic High School in the 24-25 academic school year. Crystal has held a number of leadership positions and has been involved in many extracurricular and community activities. One thing that made Crystal a standout was to have a letter of recommendation signed by 12 different teachers and administrators at her school, which demonstrated how highly regarded she is by staff. Quotes, "We have had the privilege of witnessing her evolve into an exemplary individual, overcoming past challenges with resilience and determination. While Crystal may have initially faced difficulties, she has demonstrated remarkable growth and maturity. Through a steadfast commitment to self-improvement and a willingness to take feedback from those she respects, she has emerged as a true leader and role model, actively contributing to the success of not only herself, but many other students on the Olympic campus." And included in Crystal's application was, these are Crystal's words in quotes, "I have a very different and unique perspective compared to the usual student applicants. I have had to overcome many challenges and adversity to get where I am today. When I was attending Mount Diablo High, I wasn't attending classes because I was struggling with the work. Coming to Olympic has changed my education. I am now a more positive person, and I have so much more confidence because I know the staff at Olympic really wants me here. I feel accomplished, and I get a lot of positive feedback from the staff. I feel like I can ask questions without being judged, and I think every student should have a chance to feel that way. We consider," and again, this is our words, "we consider it a privilege to have Crystal as our 24-25 student board member. Crystal will be given her oath of office at the August 14th board meeting. Governing board, I would like to introduce you formally to Crystal Ochoa." So this is an action item, and let me just- oh, go ahead,
Can I move?
please.
Okay. I move to approve Crystal Ochoa as a student board member for the 24-25 school year.
I'll second that.
Okay, that's a motion from trustee Nzewi and a second from trustee Cound. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
Right. I'll put you on the spot. Trustee Barrios, would you like to give a couple of words of advice to our incoming student board member? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but maybe as a graduating senior, you can pull out a couple sentences for us, right? I know you can.
Let me think. Definitely get your sleep. Definitely ask those questions and set your mind to a goal you want to accomplish this year, because it's gonna help you keep yourself focused.
All right.
That's pretty much it.
Thank you. So I don't want to put you on the spot before I officially swear you in, but will you come to the podium and will you introduce who's here in the crowd supporting you? And if you want to say anything else, you're free to do that.
I have my mom with me today.
Mom. All right. Thank you. Great. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, welcome, Crystal. We're very, very excited for you to join us up here and for us to hear your perspective and questions next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to also welcome you, and I'm just so excited that we have such a well-qualified person who's going to be serving in this role and being, I'm sure you'll be an excellent voice for students. So I'm really, really excited for you to work with us.
Absolutely. Madam President, I now bring before you item 10.2, and this is review and potential approval of resolution 23/24, number 70. And this is authorization to make end of year intra-budget transfers. This is a yearly resolution that we come to the board, and we're asking for approval of this resolution.
Madam Chair, I move to approve resolution 23/24, number 70, authorizing year-end inter-budget transfers.
Second.
Motion from trustee Mason and a second from trustee Mayo. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0.
Great. Item 10.3, review and potential approval of resolution 23/24, number 73. And this is to establish temporary interfund transfers. Again, this is an annual resolution that we bring and allows our business office to transfer funds between accounts.
Madam President, I move the board approve resolution 23/24, number 73 to establish temporary interfund transfers.
Second.
Motion from trustee Mayo and a second from trustee Nzewi. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member.
Madam President, we now bring before you item 10.4, review and potential approval of resolution 23/24, number 77. And this resolution is for self-certification increase from 10,000 to 50,000 for federal micro purchase thresholds for the 24-25 fiscal year. This is an annual resolution that we bring before the board.
Madam President, I move to approve resolution 23/24, number 77, self-certification increase of federal micro purchase threshold.
I'll second that.
Motion from trustee Count and a second from trustee Mason. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member.
Thank you, Madam President. And our last resolution for the evening is 10.5. This is review and potential approval of board resolution 23/24, number 78, to authorize and award summer contracts. And I just want to briefly just read over a few of these projects that we have over the summer. Our architectural and engineering services, bleacher repairs, equipment and tool procurement, fencing improvements, flooring replacements, furniture improvements, general constructions, gym floor maintenance and resurfacing, Concord High, Riverview Middle School, Valley View Middle School, hardscape, landscape, safety improvements, hazardous materials remediation, heating and ventilation and air conditioning equipment and installation repair, painting improvements, playground structure and or surface replacements or repair, security cameras, and utility repairs. This does not include our this doesn't include our bond work, but this is the other work we're doing throughout the district. So quite a few things taking place. So we are asking for approval on this resolution.
I want to appreciate the staff for all their hard work on this and all the things that are going to get done this summer while there's room to do it in our buildings. I move to approve board resolution 23/24, number 78, to authorize the award of summer contracts.
Second.
Motion from trustee Count and a second from trustee Mayo. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. So that with that, we move to public employee appointments. Dr. Clark, will you be presenting these, or is this going to be Dr. Rubio?
Yeah, this first one I'll do, and this is review and potential approval of employment agreement for Adrian Vargas as Chief Business Officer for the Mount Diablo Unified School District for a 3-year term of 24-25 through 26-27, and we are seeking approval of this contract.
Madam President, I move that we approve the employment agreement for the Chief Business Officer, Adrian Vargas, through the 26-27 school year.
Second. Motion from Trustee Mason and a second from Trustee Mayo. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Clark. I
We're still
have,
voting.
oh, I'm so sorry.
It's all right now. You're 2 seconds. We're good now.
We're excited about these
Ready to
appointments.
go, I'm sorry.
That motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member.
Sorry about that. Good evening, Dr. Clark and board members. I have before you item 11.2, review and potential approval for an appointment for principal at Ayers Elementary School. I'm happy to tell you a little bit about Miss Olivia Wong. She could not be here this evening, but as of 3:30 p.m. This afternoon, has accepted the position. Olivia Wong brings 25 years of experience to our team. She started her career in the Central Valley as a 5th grade teacher. She's been a coach, a consultant, and she has championed initiatives while serving students as an elementary school principal in the East Bay. Olivia is passionate about supporting teams and creating environments where students feel safe, supported, and confident in their learning. She has an admin services credential, a master's in education, and a teaching English to speakers of other languages certificate. We're very happy to have her join our team, and with that, I leave this appointment in your hands.
Madam President, I move to accept Ms. Olivia Wong at the appointment of principal at Ayers Elementary School.
Second.
It's a motion from Trustee Count and a second from Trustee Nzewi. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes 5-0 and welcome Olivia. And with concurrence from our student board member.
Thank you very much. Item 11.3 is for your review and potential approval for the new principal at Walnut Acres Elementary. And I'm happy and pleased to tell you that this was not a difficult decision for us. This recommendation is that Martha Thomas, one of our current principals. I don't think Ms. Thomas is here. Oh, Ms. Thomas is here. So you're welcome to stand, even though we all know you if you like. Martha Thomas has over 20 years experience in education as a classroom teacher, school administrator at both Title I and non-Title I schools. She's passionate about education and believes that in a safe, rigorous, and equitable environment, every student has the potential to learn and achieve. She has a proven track record of success in leading and managing teams of educators. I believe she's excited and we're excited with this change, and we're always happy to have someone with a great amount of experience take on one of our schools. With that, I leave this appointment in your hands.
Madam President, I move the board approve the appointment of Martha Thomas as a principal at Walnut Acres Elementary School.
I'll second that.
Motion from Trustee Mayo and a second from Trustee Mason. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
Evening, Dr. Clark and the board. I just want to say thank you very much for this opportunity. I've been in Mount Diablo for a really long time, and I'm excited to take this next adventure at Walnut Acres. So thank you so much.
Who do you have with you?
Well, tonight in person, I have my daughter, Skylar. She's with us, and somewhere online, my husband is watching from London, where he's studying this summer.
All right.
So thank you very much.
Welcome. All right.
Okay. Item 11.4 for your review and potential approval. Interviews were conducted and the candidate has been selected to fill the position of principal at Wren Avenue Elementary. We are proud to bring before you the recommendation for Lisa Marie Gascott Reyes, also a current employee with us. Is Lisa Marie here today? Oh, no.
Stand up.
Lisa Marie has over 15 years' experience in education. Her most recent role was the vice principal and program specialist at Bel Air Elementary. She has a bachelor's of arts in liberal arts with a minor in English as a second language and a master's in educational leadership from Cal State East Bay. Outside of work, she loves spending quality time with her family. And with that, I leave this appointment in your hands.
Sorry. I move that we approve the appointment of Lisa Marie Gasco Reyes to be the principal at Wren Avenue Elementary School.
Second. Motion from trustee Nzewi and a second from trustee Cowan. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
Good evening, board, Dr. Clark. Thank you for this opportunity. And before you ask, I brought my mom, my husband, and my two girls. And I also want to thank my previous admin, since I see two of them here, Mr. Humphrey and Dr. Tamika McCauley. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 11.5 for your review and potential approval. Interviews were conducted and a candidate has been selected to fill the vice principal program specialist categorical programs position at Bel Air Elementary. We're happy to have this evening with us Edmund Perryman. Edmund's career in education began with MD USD in 2014 when he worked for 3 years as a special education assistant. While working in special education, he received a Master's of Education degree as an aspiring school counselor and has experience at all levels. He also holds a bachelor's in psychology degree and a second master's in counseling psychology focused on mental health. When Edmund is not at work, he's having fun with his wife and daughter while being adventurous, navigating new playgrounds and traveling as a family. He's passionate about his service and is thrilled to work alongside the Bel Air school community in his new role. With that, I leave this appointment in your hands.
Madam President, I would like to move to approve the appointment of Edmund Perryman as Vice Principal, Program Specialist, Categorical Program, Site-Based at Bel Air Elementary School, my alma mater.
Second. It's a motion from trustee Mason and a second from trustee Cowan. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Thank you, board. Special thanks to my colleagues and those colleagues who have become friends and support me along this journey in my career. Also like to thank my family who's watching from Los Angeles and my wife, most of all, and my daughter.
Like, don't forget me.
My wife has been very patient and forthcoming with different decisions that I've made, so I appreciate her a whole lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm very excited.
Okay, item 11.6 for your review and potential approval. Interviews were conducted and the candidate has been selected to fill the principal position at Ignacio Valley High School. We're very happy to bring forward to you tonight a recommendation for Mr. Peter Crutchfield, currently one of the vice principals at the high school, to carry on the mission of improving the school, a person with a steady hand and calm demeanor who already has relationships with the staff. Mr. Crutchfield is at a conference, but I have a message from him to read to you. Dear Superintendent, Dr. Clark, and members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to serve as principal of Ignacio Valley High School. I am unfortunately unable to attend as I am in San Diego attending the Association of California School Administrators Summer Leadership Institute. I'm very excited about this new role and look forward to bringing a new energy to Ignacio Valley High School. Thank you for this opportunity. This is also in your hands for your consideration and approval or review.
Madam President, I move the board approve the appointment of Peter Crutchfield as principal at Ignacio Valley High School.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion from trustee Mayo and a second from trustee Mason. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
Item 11.7 for your review and potential approval. We have this evening approval of a 3-year employment agreement for the superintendent. With that, I leave that in your hands for your approval.
Madam President, I move that this board approve the proposed employment agreement for the superintendent from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2027 as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's a motion from trustee Count and a second from trustee Mason. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Definitely yes.
Okay.
And thank you very much, Dr. Clark, for your leadership, and we're excited to have you continue on with us.
Don't take it personally.
Very much understand. We were at the city council last night, so being able to leave early, I get it.
All right, so just real quickly, so this is item 12.1, and I know that we all have been eagerly awaiting the development of the Concord Naval Weapons Station, and I know that the city has been working very hard at this as well, and so we're really excited to have you all out to come and kind of just share with us just generally kind of what's going on there, and some of our trustees might have some questions, but specifically we'd like to know like how the schools are going to be impacted and where all those new folks will we're going to provide a place for them to all go to school. So thank you so much. So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and your colleague, then your slides are ready to go.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent Dr. Clark. President McFerrin, members of the board. My name is Joe Guerra from Brookville Properties Development. My colleague Emily Boyd will be up in a moment. to take you through portions of our presentation tonight. First of all, thank you for your time that you put in for everything, let alone the few minutes that you're going to give us tonight. We're going to try to be brief tonight because while I know you all have been talking about the Concord Naval Weapons Station for a long time with everyone else in town.
Can you speak more directly? I'm sorry,
Sure,
more directly
I'm
into the
sorry.
microphone.
It's relatively early in the process for us. We do have an approved term sheet agreement with the city that the city council has approved. And so it was sort of at that point that it made sense to begin to come in and give you an update on where we are. So for the purposes of tonight, what we're going to talk about is some very, very high level of where we are today, what we're projecting. I'm going to try to broadly answer your question, Dr. Clark, but the short answer is we love schools as much as anybody does because our homeowners want them to be there. So we're incentivized to make sure that they come online when they're needed as much as you are. As I mentioned, our term sheet has been approved by the city council, and I want to go over some of the key points that are in the term sheet. First of all, we have made a commitment to 25% of all housing will be affordable housing. Secondly, there are over 866 acres for parks and open space within the portion of the Naval Weapons Station that we're developing. We're also going to completely restore the Mount Diablo Creek corridor and the trail creation around that corridor as well. And we have signed a project labor agreement with the Building Trades Council and all their member affiliates. So construction will be union construction, and we will have job training as well as local hiring priority in that process. A few more items from the term sheet, and some of these are really important to mention because I know it's really easy to, when we start looking at maps and you see this sort of blob, to say, well, yeah, I know it's big. But to give you a sense of some of the economics and the scope of the project and what we've done from our preliminary planning right now that has come out of the area plan that the city did years ago. The first is we have set aside 120 acres for what's known as the campus district for a hoped for higher education venue within the project. There are 55 acres already sort of assumed in our plan for schools. And to drill down a little bit, Dr. Clark, we have schools in phases there are 5 phases that this project will be built out. And Emily will point those out so you can sort of see when we're thinking to have those sites available as we build the infrastructure that enables the housing, the jobs, and the educational facilities. There will be 16 acres of permanent supportive housing in our plan and 4 acres for a veterans hall within the Naval Weapons Station. And then just the dollars, because some of this magnitude, it's important to understand sort of how big this really is. There's basically $500 million that we're going to put into a tournament sports field, citywide parks, libraries, civic centers, schools, fire stations, and affordable housing subsidies. So there's $500 million there. There's then 1.67 billion in planned infrastructure. So the infrastructure and the environmental remediation, as you know, there are hazardous materials left over from when the Navy was using the facility. Some of that the Navy will be doing, some of that we may be doing for them because we think we can do it faster to get the project moving. But also the infrastructure, sewer, storm drain, streets, electricity, everything that is needed to build the project out. And then another 336 million for habitat mitigation for Mount Diablo Creek. And with that, I'm going to have my colleague Emily come up and take you through a little bit more specifics of the land plan and where we are in the process of community engagement right now.
Thanks, Joe. Good evening, Dr. Clark and board. My name is Emily Boyd. I'm the Director of Business Strategies with Brookfield. So as Joe said, we have proposed our conceptual land use map. And for those who have been following along at home over the many years that this project has been proposed, it will look very similar to really the trained eye as well as the untrained eye as some sites that you've seen before. we did take an overall scrub. So I'm just going to take you through some quick maps in quick succession to show some considerations that we had just to make sure that the area plan that it was proposed was meeting the efficiencies and how we would choose to move forward. And so to our benefit, it did match pretty closely, but we did make some small changes. So this first one's a site constraints map. There are some geographic items on there, including the creek, the Ridgeline Parkway along the top. There's a buffer zone that's located along there, and the yellow that's existing right of way. It has to be retained. So there were some things along the site that didn't make it just a blank slate. So we took these into consideration when we were proposing our land plan and our infrastructure. This is a little bit different than the previous plan. Prior, there had been a street, a kind of a backbone running straight down the center of the site. We're proposing a more looped structure. One feature that we really like is that over there on the east side or the right side, where it goes along the creek, previous areas had houses abutted right up to that. Our plan shows a road and some trails that are adjacent, and we think that that allows more people to view the creek and to take advantage of the natural beauty along the creek rather than just having a line of houses abutting. So this is probably the one that's of most interest to you. This is the open space and community facilities. The acreage for schools with preliminary placeholders are in the green hatched areas. So I'll show you on another one. Is there a fingerprint perhaps on this? Oh, it doesn't really show. There it is. That's okay. So up there toward the top, and then just to the lower left of that, and then further down in the two areas as you move down the site. So there are 4 in total proposed as of now for the total of the 55 acres that Joe mentioned. This is the conceptual project phasing. So there is a large scope for this project. So I know it looks like just a little map. And if some of you reside in Concord, you might have a better idea of the scale just based on where you live on that map. But this is over 2,000 acres and it will be, we're presuming, taking about 30 to 40 years from the start to the finish. So that's the length of this project. The first phases are in pink. This was driven, as you can see, where it touches kind of the top by Highway 4 there at the top. That was driven by, that's where the utilities will come in. So that's the quickest way that we can get to bring utilities to start the development. Blue is the second phase. You'll see over there just to where the 1B on the pink on the left, that's the North Concord BART station, to give you some perspective. The tan or orangish color is phase 3, followed by 4 in yellow and 5 in purple. So again, by the time we get down to 5, we're thinking 35 to 40 years. And this is the conceptual land use plan. And what that means is basically it gives a broad idea of the types of density of the residential housing, very broadly, low, medium, and high. It also gives an idea of where we think that neighborhood centers and commercial centers would work well, and that's grocery stores and retail. The blue and bright blue up at the top, that's the campus district that Joe mentioned. And again, you can see right there within that blue is one of those green hatched areas. And that is actually the preliminary idea of where the first school site would be. So that's in 2A. This gets a little bit more, it's just an overlay of the one that you've seen before, but it puts the phasing and subphasing over the top of that. So you can get, again, an idea of when in the phasing development that those would come online. So Brookfield, we became the selected master developer in August of last year, and we've been moving fairly quickly. And a lot of that is because our plan was really built upon many, many years of planning and outreach and things that the local reuse authority has already built and already reached out to the community to propose. So we were able to pick up the ball running and move fairly quickly. We were selected as the master developer in August. We got our term sheet approved in March of this year. And as Joe said, that was really what we felt the appropriate time to really kick off community engagement. That said, I've been with this project for a little over a year now as we were starting to pursue through the statement of qualifications process. And I will say that I think that we are now approaching almost 100 different groups that we've had outreach with. That's labor groups, veteran groups, neighborhood organizations, schools. We've had the chance to meet with Dr. Clark a few times, as well as Trustee Kant. So we've done a lot of due diligence in trying to get an idea and make sure that this is, that we're taking in the community outreach already. But as of June 15th, we had the opportunity to hold our first large-scale community open house at the Concord Senior Center. And we were pleased to have over 120 residents from the community come out. A lot of these maps that you see here were presented as just informational to make sure that the community understood how we got where we are now. But we also had several interactive stations set up where people could tell us where they were from, rank their priorities with stickers, if affordable housing, traffic, schools, parks and open space, give us an idea of their priorities, because in the next 3 quarters, in the next quarter, sometime in the next 3 months, we're going to hold our first topic-specific workshop. And we're going to use the feedback that we got from the community to determine what the topic should be. And we anticipate that that will change over time. So we're kind of going to go this every other quarter cadence where we'll have an open house, take in a lot of information, and then the next quarter we'll have a focused topic workshop as we move through. So currently we are in the process of negotiating the term sheet with the Navy. So for those that aren't aware, this property actually, it's not a Brookfield property and it's not even a City of Concord property at this point. It's still a Navy property. So we've, now that we've got our term sheet with the City of Concord or with the LRA, we are now in the process of negotiating the term sheet along with the LRA with the Navy. And once that's completed, then we'll really kick off the specific plan, which is where we will go and start putting a really fine point on more of these broad conceptual land plans that I showed in some of the previous maps. So that's me in the middle. This is a big part of my job as community outreach. I have business cards with me today. You're always welcome to reach out. I'll have a slide here at the end that has also a website, and we have email address now, so we've got all sorts of ways for you to reach out. In addition, our website does have a way where you can see what upcoming community events we have, what those focus workshops are, when they'll be. Reach out to us at any point. Again, if your neighborhood group or your interest group wants to meet with us for any reason, our phones are always open and we're always out in the community having meetings. Let's see, I think that pretty much wraps it up. So there is our email address and a phone number. And again, if you write to that email address, we're happy to provide the website and any other information that you're looking for. Thank you for your time, and we'll take questions.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sure there's probably a couple questions here. So, but we really appreciate you just being responsive to us and coming and meeting with me a couple times. And I know as the project comes along further, there'll be a need to come back and engage some more. So I'll turn it over to any questions if any trustees have questions.
First for you, what's the average site of a school acre-wise?
High school is 40 acres, and then I think a middle school is right around 25, and then a elementary would be about 10. I'm just going off the top of my head.
Okay, so 55 acres, you could see if we wanted a high school, that would be that. And maybe 2 schools, so.
But this is showing 4 sites. So this is showing 4 locations.
Yeah. So just to keep in mind, maybe they don't look that big, but schools are a lot of acreage. So yeah, that would be my concern. Other than that, I'm going to be dead when it happens anyway. So just.
So my understanding was the campus district would be the higher education campus, correct? So I had a difficult time pinpointing where the 3 schools would be. I know that they are in 2A, 3, and 4. Can you provide a little bit of guidance for me?
Yeah, I don't know if our tech can zoom in on that map.
Okay.
But for people to be able to see, yeah, there we go. A little bit out,
So
slightly back out.
So rectangle, rectangle.
Down a little more. Yeah.
This is not a rectangle. So again, we're just putting them as placeholders. This may not be any of them, but the arc when we're kind of thinking that maybe the 55 acres, 65 acres. That's where the four would be. So as Emily mentioned, in phase 2A would be the first unit, which is the one in the campus district. And then phase 3A.
I'm sorry. I think if we can have you speak into the microphone just for.
You can bring it over to me.
Yeah,
It's
it's portable microphone. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanna. So as Emily mentioned, in different phases, so this top one in the campus district is in phase 2. This large one is in phase 3A. And then the last two, if we can move the map a little bit, are in phase 4 and phase 5. So just from again, very preliminary timing. And as Emily pointed out, if we can pull the map back so we can see the whole map at this point, the campus district, which is adjacent to phase 1, phase 1 is where all the utilities exist today. So just from the standpoint of how far you're pulling sewer, water, electricity, and everything, and because of the high density that's intended to be near the BART station, it sort of starts there and starts to move back with 2A and 2B coming in right behind it.
So I think just to follow up on that, to get an understanding, I think one of the concerns that we hear is how do we make sure that by the time any housing is built that will have families who need to attend schools, that the school will already be built by then. So if you could talk a little bit in more detail about when housing is built, in which phases, and how that's going to fit together.
That will be a very lengthy discussion with your superintendent and his staff, because we're not the experts. And so we'll have to talk through, obviously the first house doesn't need a school. And so trying to figure out, when do you try to make those timings available? And, that some of the timing issue will be, is there a site, one of those rectangles? Are we handing you a site to then go build and whatever your timeline is, or are we delivering the school to you and timing that out? So is it our job to hit the date? Is it your job to hit the date and we just provide the site? So it'll be a very complex conversation. And, as your attendance numbers move all the time. We are just wrapping up a master plan in the city of Dublin on the Camp Parks Army Reserve Base, where we have 1,700 homes and a couple hundred acres there. When we started, the superintendent said, there's no way we're going to need a school. We won't need a school. Yeah, come on. Our attendance is so low, won't be there. And by the time we got through with our specific plan, it's like, I think we might need a middle school. And then it was, we need 12 acres for a K-8 school. So it's going to be a fluid process. We're happy to engage as early and as often. But as Emily pointed out, we still have to get through the Navy. I mean, I think we in the city are in alignment at this point, but we need to work together to get with the Navy to make sure we actually have something we can do that the Navy's willing to accept what we think the economics are. Once we get that, the specific plan will kick off with the city to take this to more detail. And it will really be at that point, we can have much more substantive conversations on location, size, and timing of schools.
So then the way this is mapped out right now in phase 1, when you say utilities, what is being built in phase 1? Is there any housing in phase 1?
Yes, there is.
But we don't yet know whether that would be like for seniors or families. That's not been determined yet. Is that correct?
No, it's not. I mean, that because we have to build a model for purposes of the Navy discussion, we do have, this many market rate units, this many affordable units. There are densities because you'll see on these different colors, the different colors for the residential actually mean different densities. The more purple, the higher the density is, the more units per acre it is, and the more orange and then tan, the lower density it is. So the tan would be much more sort of your traditional single family detached, whereas the dark purple is going to be multi-story, likely apartment, maybe condominiums, but likely apartment near the BART station. So again, this is kind of a bubble diagram with placeholders in it for the negotiations with the city and the Navy. But no, we don't have specific. And again, when we get to the specific plan, this will start to really have boundaries around those densities. So it'll start to be, 12 to 18 units per acre on this many acres. So we'll be able to much more readily provide for the district. Here's a single family detaches. They're going to have 3 and 4 bedrooms. Let's talk about student generation rates on that type of product versus a 3-story townhome versus an apartment versus a senior, type project. So no, none of that has a lot of definition at this point.
Okay, and you did talk about how phase 5 is 35 to 40 years out. If the schools are not built until 2A, what's your like approximate ballpark? How many years out is phase 2A?
So when the question came up,
Understanding this is
when the
changing
question
all the
came up at
time.
the city council meeting last night for when are we starting?
Mhm.
Somebody said 4, somebody said 6, somebody said 8 years out. Again, right now, a lot of the process, like the specific plan in the EIR, we can tell you real certainty, but those times, the Navy, I don't know. We could be done in 6 months. It could take, but the negotiation with the Army at Camp Parks took 3.5 years. Now, the Navy's been on this for a really long time, so hopefully they actually want to get it done. I don't think there's going to be a tractor moving dirt any faster than 4 years from now, as far as phase 1 starting. And so it's going to be multiple years for phase 1 to be built out. But it's important to point out, because this does matter back to the school delivery. We don't build phase 1, sell all those homes, and then start phase 2. So as you're going on phase 1, you build all what we call the horizontal infrastructure, the roads and everything, and we won't be the only home builder. And then we'll start selling neighborhoods. And at some point, you start building out phase 2, which means the school site in phase 2 is going to be available long before the last unit in phase 1 even gets close to construction, which again, that's where we can work with the staff to try to figure out the timing for availability. Because, you've still got state architect years to go through for your design as well.
And then I think you do have charts that are describing after your last slide. There's more slides. I don't know if you had more presentation for those or they were just for our information.
Oh, no, those are just exhibits.
So the next one after this, if you want to go to that. So if you could talk about this, because it does describe some particular housing for phase 1.
Yeah, so again, these are the placeholders that are in our pro forma for purposes of conversation with the Navy. At some point, we will actually submit, the city will kick off a specific plan process that will take these and actually lay them out on a map in much more detail. So for now, this is our best guess. The only thing I know for sure is this is wrong. I'm not sure if it's too low or too high, but it's our best guess today as to what could be in phase 1. And again, as I mentioned earlier about hazardous material cleanups and things like that, as we're going along, we're going to run into things that may adjust some of the lines on the map.
That's very helpful, I think, for the public to understand that these are not set in stone. These are placeholders for the moment to be described in the specific plan.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, and I apologize. I had missed the site listed in phase 5. So there are 3 10-acre sites proposed and 1 25-acre site proposed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those are our placeholders right now.
Right. Thank you.
And just a news flash for you from experience, the Navy can shut it down anytime. They closed 3 towns that used to be there when I was a kid. They decided they didn't want to do that. And they are expanding on our side. So good luck.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for the presentation.
Right.
And
I
thank you
think
again for your
just
time.
one last thing. I think as we go forward, one of the things that we're going to be looking for is to make sure that MDUSD is going to have that we are not going to have an issue with needing to find funding to build these schools that are deemed necessary by this development, right? So when you talk about who's paying for the building of the school, that's something that we're going to be watching very carefully.
I wasn't talking about who's paying for it. I was talking about who's building it.
Okay.
So if you're building it, I'm assuming we're paying school impact fees,
Yes.
and that's the money. That's one of your sources.
Yes.
If we're building it, then, so it was purely a who's doing the construction, not a who's paying. I wasn't suggesting there's any scenario where we're not dealing with the financing for the schools.
Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Great.
We'll
Thank
be in
you.
touch, okay? All right. Good luck with everything.
Okay, so we move to 12.2, report on coffee with the counselors.
Yeah, so I just want to say that I'm going to talk about you for a minute. So just hold tight. No. I just want to say that this is really, this presentation that we're about to get. This is really the spirit of what we're all about here in Mount Diablo. We have some individuals here who saw a need, and they didn't wait for someone to come and save them, or bureaucracy or all those types of things. They saw a need in our community, and they stepped up. And I want to recognize Dr. Stuckey Smith for her leadership and guidance. I want to recognize Ms. Roberts for her work, but really, these professionals here, they really, this just started. I'm sure I wasn't there, but I mean, I'm sure it just started as an idea, and then it started. Hey, we're going to do it here, and then all of a sudden, I brought back pictures of their presentations. It's grown and grown and grown, and I just could not be more proud of them. For again, just seeing a need and then just taking a step and not waiting for anybody, but taking care of that. And then once, then I'm sure we provide them some support and things like that. So we're going to hear all about it. But coffee with the counselors, I would try to say it in Spanish, but I don't want to mess it up. But I'll give it a shot. Let's see. Where are we? Cafecito con los concierges. All right. Okay. All right. Come on up. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Clark. Buenas tardes, MDUSD, Board of Education. And again, buenas tardes, Dr. Clark. We are the Cafecito con las Consejeras Collective, and we are consejeras, school counselors for MDUSD's School Counseling Department.
Hello, today we will be going over Cafecito con las Consejeras, Bring Connections, one charla at a time. So right now we will have two of our consejeras coming up with artifacts that were used throughout our Cafecito this year. But before we get into our exciting highlights, we would like to start off by introducing ourselves.
And feel free to look at those as we speak. We will be referring to them throughout. I am Consejera Angela Ordaz. I work at Holbrook Language Academy and Mountain View Elementary, and I serve kiddos grades TK to 8th.
Buenas tardes, everyone. My name is Miss Lady Arias, and I'm one of the school counselors at Mount Diablo High School, and I proudly serve 9th through 12th graders as well as ELD students. Good evening. I am Marcy Torres, Super Shark School Counselor at Shore Acres Elementary School, working with kiddos TK through 5th.
Good evening. My name is Yeretzi Amaya. I also serve Mount Diablo High School as a school counselor, and I work with students 9 through 12. We also want to acknowledge that this Cafecito con las Consejeras collective is overseen and supported by our director, Dr. Felicia Stuckey.
Definitely want to confirm how Dr. Clark introduced us, which is this started with a very small dream, idea, hope. There were some conversations that some colleagues were having of ours about, well, are parents really interested in showing up and being engaged and, you know, being partners in our school community? We knew, as all being Latinas, that yes, they are. Yes, they are. And rather than have that back and forth, we decided, how can we disrupt this narrative? So from that narrative, the Cafecito con las Consejeras work that you're about to hear about happens in addition to our regular school day. So we plan and prepare everything on our evenings and our nighttime, and then we present on the weekends. So this is it's that important to us that we do this in addition to. And our why, which you can see up here, is very specific. It's our mission. Our mission is to engage with those parents that we know want to be vital partners, specifically our Latina parents. And we strive to ensure that our families know they are welcome, know they are vital in coming to us as partners. We also see our familias as already coming with so many strengths and so much greatness. Let me say that again. We also see our families already coming to us with so much greatness and so many strengths. When we are having our cafecito gatherings, it is a reciprocal connection and conversation. Familias may be learning from us, but we are also learning from them. That is how the four of us choose to disrupt and interrupt systemic racism in our educational system.
Action is the antidote to despair. Joan Baez. This quote resonates with us as a collective in our work. So how and when did Cafecito start? Exactly. The school year of 2022-2023, we started off with two Cafecito con las Consejeras events. Our first one took place at Mount Diablo High School in December 2022, where we actually took a needs assessment from our parents just to kind of get a better idea of what they wanted to hear from us. And then our second one was in the spring, April 2023, which took place at Short Acres Elementary. And then this past school year, 2022-2020, or 2023-2024, excuse me, we had a total of 4 Cafecito con las Consejeras events, 1 per quarter. So what can you guys expect for this upcoming school year of 2024-2025? Well, we plan to continue doing 4 cafecitos. So we're going to have those in August, October, December, and April. However, we're also adding quarterly data gatherings, as well as having conversations with our familias and getting that parent testimony. And we continue to take deeper data dives as we continue to learn more about data through our Hatching PDs. Our cafecito themes. Starting off with our cafecito number 1. This was our inaugural cafecito that took place at Loma Vista Adult Center's Parent University. We centered our familias in this cafecito event, and we had a discussion on school systems. We also affirmed parents the parent role in their students' education, and a sweet memory from that I took away from this Cafecito con las Consejeras event was when we did the connection activity with the yarn that you see up there. Yes. One of the parents, basically with the connection activity, parents shared the country that they come from, right? And so one of our fathers that was present, he shared that he was from El Salvador. And then another mother, I could see she got really excited and her eyes got big, and she was like, I'm from El Salvador too, because she thought, oh, I'm probably gonna be the only Salvadorian mama up in here, but to see that connection was really, really, it was sweet. And then just to see other parents in there just kind of sharing their experiences about taking English classes at Loma Vista was a beautiful thing to see as well.
Moving on to theme number 2, which was one of the most selected items on our needs assessment, academic success, college and university chats, and career exploration conversations. Let me also add, these are part of our ASCA standards, American School Counseling Association. So that alignment was beautiful. In this specific cafecito that took place at Holbrook Language Academy, it was confirmed for us. We had a hunch, but it was confirmed that our parents come to us with a wide spectrum of knowledge regarding school systems and different areas of that school system. For example, we had parents in this cafecito that were so knowledgeable, had done so much homework, had already attended multiple events. They could have created our slide deck and they had questions that we said, let's get back to you on that one. So that was a beautiful thing to see. And we want to say that, right? To give those shout outs to those families that already did all of that. And then in that same meeting, we had parents that were like, I am just showing up to this for the very first time. And I just want to know, how do I start that post-secondary conversation with my student? Doesn't want to listen to me. I don't know how to start it. And so again, a wide spectrum, and that's what we're here to serve.
So cafecito number 3 was done at Mon Diablo High School, home of the Red Devils. And at this cafecito, the themes were social emotional wellness and mental health. So we went over symptoms that could be seen in a classroom and at home. Tied in with that, we also learned positive coping skills. So one of my favorite memories was actually reading the book that Dr. Clark has in front of him, Reading to the Other Side by Erika Mesa. And with this book, our families were able to really think back to their own mental health journeys. And because the book was so impactful in, those thoughts and those feelings, we ended up redoing a flower breathing exercise to kind of practice those coping skills with our parents that they could do not just with their children, but also with themselves.
And last but definitely not least, cafecito número 4 was done at one of my favorite places, Short Acres. And since that one was in late April, we focused on how to close out the year strong. And we also talked about summer school and summer enrichment opportunities. That one was really fun because our parents got to tap into their inner child, and we got to play games, and we did art activities where some of our parents even mentioned like, wow, I hadn't held a crayon in so many years. So that was cool to see. However, a moment that really stood out to me was one of our parents. She came in a little late because she had just finished work. So she was rushing over to get to us. So the fact that we have parents taking time out of their day on a Saturday to come make connections and learn about the education system really stood out to me. And I was like, wow. So data impacting high school graduations. For our last cafecito, we did some data using a pre and post survey that we asked our families to fill out. And those questions were based using ASCA mindsets and behaviors. So ASCA is American School Counselor Association. So we focused on 2 mindsets, which focused on positive attitude towards work and learning and understanding the importance of post-secondary education. We also focus on the 2 behaviors, balance of school, home, and community activities, and advocacy skills.
All right, who doesn't love data? So with our professional developments that we have had with Hatching Results, we have implemented data within our cafecitos, and we're really excited to show that off today. As my colleague Marcy had mentioned, we did a pre and post survey based on our family's needs. And the chart here shows the question that we had asked our families is how many credits are needed for graduation. So between the 2 bar graphs, you can see the 57% increase of those who answered the question correctly from the beginning. And then when we retook it again at the end, you can see the big jump of those who answered the question correctly as well. So we were very excited to see that, and we're looking forward to using more data within our cafecitos.
And yet Etsy is being very humble. That was our first attempt at a data pre and post, and we put so much love and thought into it. So again, if you only see that bar that was there showing that very key data point, like that's the start. That's what we're starting with. That is so exciting. But I digress. Now to my favorite part, their favorite part. These pictures include a variety of the connection activities that we've alluded to. And there are 5 amazing attendees in this room, and they are parents. Some of them came straight from work. They are in those pictures. We're choosing to end with parent voices. So I will step aside and the parents will be introduced. Some of them are excited to share some thoughts. So we can't wait for you to listen.
Okay, we have Miriam Garcia and Jose Luis Amezcua.
We also have Guillermina Huerta and Marisol Barbosa.
And we also have Maria Hernandez.
Good evening. Yeah. Okay, my name is Marian Garcia. My closer. I'm a graduate from Diablo district as well, and my kids are in school as well. I have 3, and one of them was in there, the little one. And I'm just grateful to have cafecito with the consejeras. I'm always running late because from work and working as working parent, it's hard, to get to the meetings or even after, the programs that they have. So I'm very grateful to have them over, on Saturdays, including my husband. Sometimes he's like, I can't make it, and I'm grateful because I get to know them a little closer, and one of them is already a graduate. And thanks to the consejeras and Miss Amaya, I have the confidence to go and talk to them directly and be like, hey, can you guide me in this or things like that? Sorry, I'm getting nervous. And so it was easier for me to just come over and be like, hey, Miss Maya, can I talk to you regarding this matter? All this. And she was able to help me out, including the meetings that were really helpful. I'm very thankful to have them around. Thank you. Thank you.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Guillermina Huerta. Mi hijo estudia en la High School Diablo, se llama Juan Ignacio Aguilar Huerta, está en el 11 grado, va para el 12. Pues yo quiero decirles que estoy bien agradecida con las consejeras por esos cafecitos. Hemos aprendido, nos han dado información para poder ayudar a nuestros hijos. Ojalá y sigan habiendo más cafecitos para informarnos más y poder ayudar a nuestros hijos. Muchas gracias y a ustedes también.
Good evening. My name is Guillermina Huerta, and I have a son that goes to Mount Diablo High School. His name is Juan Ignacio Aguilar Huerta, and he's in 11th grade. He's going to the 12th grade now. And I just wanted to say thank you to the consejeras for having these cafecitos, because we've been able to learn a lot of great information and be able to help our kids with this information. So I really hope that these cafecitos will continue so we can get more information and help our children. And I also wanted to thank you all.
Mi nombre es Marisol Barbosa. Tengo un hijo en Diablo y yo quiero agradecer a las consejeras por su tiempo y dedicación hacia nosotras, porque hemos aprendido bastante. Hemos sabido de universidades y de mucha información que quizás nosotros no sabíamos y pues quiero agradecer también a ustedes porque sin su apoyo, pues igual ellas no podrían hacerlo y es todo.
Good evening. My name is Marisol Barbosa. I have a son that goes to Mount Diablo, and I also wanted to thank the consejeras for their time and their dedication to us. We learned lots of great stuff, and we got to know about college and lots of great information that we didn't have before. I also wanted to thank you because without your support, we would not be able to have it. So thank you all.
Hola, mi nombre es María Hernández. Tengo 3 hijos, 2 de ellos ya se graduaron de ahí, el último está va para el 12 grado. Mi hija este año se graduó de Sonoma State y ella agarró muchas ayudas de allí. Ella es muy inteligente y yo he estado muy envuelta en las reuniones de ahí, me gusta, y más ahora con las consejeras que nos han ayudado a saber qué es lo que tienen que ver cuando ellos quieren ir a la universidad y más cosas que he aprendido de allí. Estoy muy agradecida con todas, me encanta estar involucrada en los meetings de allí. Yo le digo a mi hijo, me dice, ¿dónde vas, mami? Le digo, voy al meeting, a la escuela, a la high school. No vayas, ¿a qué vas? Claro que voy a ir. Yo tengo que estar muy atenta a lo que tú haces y lo que quiero que hagas con tu vida. Gracias.
Hello, my name is Maria Hernandez. I have 3 children. 2 of them have already graduated, and one of them is going to the 12th grade. And my daughter just graduated from Sonoma State, and I got lots of great help. She's very, very smart, but I was also very involved at the meetings, and I like the meetings and with the consejeras, and they taught us a lot of good things about what we needed to for college. So I wanted to thank them all. I'm very thankful to all of them. And I love being involved in the meetings. And sometimes my son is asking me, where are you going? And I'm telling him that I'm going to the school to have the meeting. And he's like, no, don't go, don't go. But I tell him that I need to go because I want to be informed about what is going on with the school and his education.
We did not know there was going to be so much gratitude. We love it. That was our plan, to come express gratitude to all of you, but having our familia express that gratitude, we want to take a moment, the 4 of us, to turn around and thank them.
So at this time, we would like to thank all of our supporters that have supported us with Cafecito con las Consejeras. As you can imagine, it's a long list and there's plenty of more that we could not add, but there's here in spirit. We also want to share, I'm not sure if you noticed, but we passed around some stickers based on our theme, because without Cafecito con las Consejeras, we always need to have our pan dulce and café. So thank you so much for listening, and we would like to open it out for any questions.
I just want to say thank you so much. This is so heartwarming, and it's so deeply based in all the values that we have and that we hope that we are sharing with our families and with our students. The belief that they have so much knowledge and capability and beauty that they bring to our schools, and that bringing them together in these different ways and uplifting all the different cultures in our schools. So I just really want to appreciate you. And then I also would be honored if we might be able to take a photo with you guys while you're all here.
And we will, yeah.
I just also want to appreciate the asset mindset that you bring to working with our parents. I also want to say that I really appreciate the thoughtfulness of the topics, and these seem like topics that were really well selected and really responsive to the needs of our parents. So thank you.
I'm like their groupie. I follow them wherever they go.
Go ahead, Susanna.
I just want to say I like the strategy of luring these parents out with cafe and conchas at the classic breakfast and dinner. But I'm really glad to see all these parents like involved in their child's life because like coming from a different country and like not knowing English is very hard to get involved with um their child in their school because you don't understand what's going on. So you have to like find comfort in their teachers, which most of the time they're busy. And it's really like heartwarming to see how grateful everyone is and like how strong of a community you guys have created with these cafecitos.
I just wanted to say, just again, I said at the beginning that you guys really do exemplify the spirit that we're trying to create here in Mount Diablo. And just as you all were talking, I'm a fast reader and I read this book, but I mean it's very, very powerful. And so so one of you talked about like how a parent responded to this book, and I could really see that. And again, you know, I don't believe in the one size fits all approach, especially when we have 29,000 students that are all from different backgrounds and experiences. And just what you guys have done is just something that really should be a model for everyone just to watch and just to know the impact that you can have. And I know you're giving up free time and we appreciate that, but the impact is so great. And so just, you know, from the superintendent, just thank you so much for all that you guys are doing. And you know, you have my support to carry on and expand and do those things. And I'll be there with you every step of the way. So thank you. Now we'll do a picture.
For the picture. The little horse. Familia, vengan. Vengan, vengan. We face this way. I'm not used to. Oh, we go over here. Okay.
Great. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Just, well,
Okay, so we move to 13 to board member reports. And I know that we started with Trustee Mason last time.
I've been very busy, but nothing under this jurisdiction.
Oh, okay, so that concludes your report. You went first, thank you. Let's start with Trustee Count.
Right. I'll keep it real short. I really enjoyed the Pleasant Hill Juneteenth event. Thank you to all the organizers there. And then I also enjoyed the opportunity to go to the Walnut Creek United Methodist Church. They were appreciating us for all of our efforts on behalf of all members of the LGBTQIA plus community. And it was just wonderful to be able to join their church on a Sunday and see how welcoming and inclusive they are to the whole community, to all students, and how they partner with us as a school district. They also participate in the Clayton Pride Parade every year. And so it was just a beautiful place to be able to see the kind of support that we get in our schools, in our communities, from one of the many churches that is supportive of the LGBTQIA community. So I just wanted to share that on behalf of Dr. Clark and the whole board, because I know that these are efforts that we make together, and that it can't be done without all of the community partners that we have. So I just wanted to share that. And then I'm happy to about the state budget agreement being reached between the legislature and the governor, and that they were responsive to all of our advocacy through CSBA, and our concerns about the Prop 98 funds. And that's it. Happy summer.
Trustee Nzewi, do you have a report this evening?
I kind of think the governor coming out in May, like I proposed this in May, like came out with the worst of the worst, so that knowing that he could not do that to look like he was a hero at the end. That's my guess, honestly, because I mean, and he wasn't the hero. Advocates up and down the state on a variety of topics that impact Californians' everyday lives spoke up loud and clear for the last month, and the legislature listened, and then he had to. So yes, I don't give kudos to the governor. But I give kudos to the people. No, I don't have a Juneteenth in both Pleasant Hill and Concord. Lovely, lovely week last week. And I would like to wish everyone a cool and restorative, safe, fun, little brief summer break. I know nobody in this room gets a summer break, but we do. So trustees, that's my wish for all of you.
Trustee Mayo, do you have a report this evening?
I just want to share that we had a Measure J meeting right after our last meeting. And then while I haven't been doing school district business, I've been helping nonprofits wrap up their end of the fiscal year. There's a lot of reporting that folks have to prepare for. We underestimate the time it takes for our nonprofits to ensure that their organizations are stable. And we just need to say thank you to them. I want to wish everybody a great summer. Most of you I know are working here all summer long. I hope you have a day or two at least of a break where you can relax a little bit. And I hope everyone has a safe and restorative summer. Thank you.
Trustee Barrios?
I mean, I'm not really doing much. I'm just enjoying my summer, relaxing. It's definitely not cool. It's too hot to enjoy anything, but at least I'm relaxing.
I don't have much of a report this evening, kind of with school not in session and there being fewer events, but I do want to take this opportunity to thank you, Trustee Barrios. You, just like in this meeting, you always make us laugh. You always bring your authentic and sincere self to our meetings, and I think you've been an exceptional representative of the student voice and really serving students. The best part is always like just hearing from young people and kind of hearing about like your thoughts and your perspectives and your ideas about just how to improve like, you know, any kind of system that you're a part of. And so it's been really wonderful getting to have you as our student board member, and we'll miss you tremendously.
Thank you so much.
You can come and heckle us anytime.
Dr. Clark?
I have a short report tonight, but let's see, just a couple of slides. All right. I know that I know later on tonight, hopefully we're going to be adopting a new LCAP. So this is the last time I can share these LCAP goals, but I really think over the last 3 years or so that we've worked extremely hard to meet these goals, and I continue to support the future LCAP goals, and continue to support students and staff and families, and make sure that all of our students are getting exactly what they need to be successful. Our work with CCE is going to continue. We haven't quite gotten off of that assistance list, so we're gonna keep collaborating, and you know, not only do we collaborate with CCE, but we also collaborate with other districts who are trying to solve some of these same issues that we're facing here. So it really is a collective, and I think my first meeting back with CCE and these districts is July 30th. So looking forward to re-engaging and seeing what next year brings about. I just had to share, you know, what we create in Mount Diablo are, you know, our students. And I know, you know, within our goals is to prepare every student for college and career. And so just as we concluded our graduation season, it really was extremely moving, just seeing the hopes and aspirations of so many young people who are passing through our system. I can't take credit for what all these students did, but it's really everybody working together, the adults, the other students, the families, the community, really working together to make sure that we have a program or something that each student can really lock into and just achieve their best. So these were just a couple of pictures I pulled off a line, but I really like that middle picture. If you can't read that, but it says the student put this on her mortar board. If you knew my story, you'd be proud. And I think as we think about all of our students, even students who we may assume have, you know, everything going for them and things like that, like each of our students come to us with their own unique qualities and advantages, but also challenges and struggles. And so I just think we did a really good job this year in our graduations, in our promotions, highlighting our students. Just real quickly, you know, that's one of our employees in the upper left-hand corner with her son who promoted from 8th grade. The bottom picture there, that's performing arts over at the Concord High graduation. We got Northgate in the middle. We have one of our elementary schools over at Fair Oaks, and that was after their 5th grade clap out. And then partnership with the city of Pleasant Hill. They list every College Park graduate on their marquee during graduation time over at Pleasant Hill. So just, I mean, I could have put up like 1,000 pictures. There's so many out there and stuff like that, but I just pulled off a couple. So I kind of had this top 15 list, and because there's so many things, and I really could have presented data with each of these, presented pictures with each of these, or a story. So I'm just going to kind of go through and just talk about these 15 celebrations. You know, student safety has continued to be at our forefront. And when I talk about student safety, we're talking about their physical safety, but also their safety to be themselves, to fail, to succeed. You know, and we have increased our social workers, student services department, counseling, you know, psychologists, all those things we've really done to really focus on our student safety. We've also, obviously, we have partnerships with law enforcement and with public agencies to make sure that our students are safe. I want to thank each and every police department. I want to thank the emergency response teams who've come out to so many of our sites when students were injured or staff were injured or whatnot, and you know, just that partnership with the community. Our academic programs and our updated curriculum. And, you know, we've gone through new adoptions each and every year, but we're continuing to just change the way that we deliver instruction, the way we assess kids, the way we provide interventions. and just can't be more proud that the focus is on the whole student, but that instructional and that academic piece is always there. I want to recognize our positive budget designation that we've had for the last several years, and that's a good thing. It's so much better than to be, just reading about some other districts at this time with negative certifications or, just qualified budgets and things like that. And so I really am proud of that. I'm really proud of our closed contracts. There was a time when we were at impasse with all 5 of our units a couple years back, but we have closed contracts with each one of our units. I think we have tremendous leaders leading each of these who really advocate for their members and keep the focus on students and keep the focus on our communities. But most importantly, they keep their jobs, or to keep their focus on their members, and that's what they do. And we've we've provided a 9% increase to all of our units that they will start seeing next year, and so we're really proud of that, and just really want to thank this board for that. I also want to thank we've had a focus on students earning the seal of biliteracy, and so we've had record numbers of students this year earn that seal of biliteracy. And you heard me stumble through just 4 Spanish words here, and so to think that we have students who really just taking this above and beyond, I think that's something really to celebrate. I estimated this, but we've had over 70 board resolutions that have recognized various individuals and cultures and movements and environmental things. And I think, it's kind of a ritual that we go through at these meetings, but it really does let our public know and let our students know and our staff know what we're about. And we're not about just one thing. We're about all kinds of things. And it's all about acceptance. And, it's no political agenda going on here or anything like that. It's just about we serve 29,000 kids from all different backgrounds and all different experiences. And we need to accept them all how they are and provide an educational program for each and every one of those students. And so those resolutions are just a little thing that says, we hear you, we see you, and we value you. So thank you, board, for putting that together. I'm very proud of our elementary and middle school math collaboration that's been taking place, the instructional leadership team model aligned with the PLC model. As we did our end of the year principal meetings, almost every single principal spoke about that. At our high schools, we're still doing our equity work. Linda Ortega, I hope you heard me talk about you guys and talk about how thrilled I am and whatnot. So, okay, that's all right. But I did recognize you. You can go back and watch the tape and hear all the great things that I said about you. But the elementary and middle school collaborations and the work that our high school folks are doing, like we are collaborating, we're working together, and we're doing some good things. I want to recognize our expansion of transitional kindergarten. I see Margie in the back there, and I know Ms. Calbeck has, really worked hard on that. We started off with 2 TK classes, and now I don't even know, we're every single school has them. 40, okay, we have 40 now. So we know kindergarten isn't required, and students who have access to preschool, and I don't even want to start having Trustee and Zawi telling us the power and the importance of preschool, but not in this world, not everyone has access to that. So the younger we can get the students, the better. And so the best we can do is transitional kindergarten, and just to hear about how that has expanded. And we're almost at the point where we're building the program out. So that is something really to be celebrated. Of course, the counselors left now, but I have the unified counseling services. We brought in a great consultant this year. We signed a 2-year contract with to work this year and next year, hatching results. And it's really just working with our counselors, because when everyone thinks of a school counselor, you might think of the social emotional side, you might think of the academic side, you might think of the building the class schedule, you might think of running groups. We all have these different definitions about it. So to get all of our counselors in one room and to have those professionals share what's working, what's not, come together on some common goals and things like that is a huge success. And their end of the year presentation down at Willow Creek, I forget what it was called, but it was showcase. Thank you. It was fantastic. And to show that continuum through elementary, middle, and high school, I just think we're really on the right track. And that's something that should be celebrated. Visual and performing arts programs, I shared the picture from graduation, but I've just seen dozens and dozens of end of the year drama performances, musical dance, so many things happening within our district. And it's not just all about the high schools, but it's also about, the kindergartners and the elementary schools and the middle schools and high schools. Just they're doing great things in the VAPA arena. I want to recognize our high school athletics. We've had some, I'm a strong proponent of athletics. It teaches kids discipline. It's a way to get them involved in school, teamwork, commitment, all those things. And, we have hundreds of coaches out there who get paid basically pennies by the hour, and they dedicate their time and, expertise to our young athletes. And I'm glad that we're able to provide those opportunities for our athletes. Also, technology, the implementation and upgrades. We during the pandemic, we had this vision of going one-to-one, and we've done that. And now bringing in the Promethean boards and all of the behind-the-scenes security measures that we have around protecting our data, protecting our servers, putting stuff in the cloud more and more. There's just we got two representatives over there from the technology department who could go on for hours about all the things that are taking place in that department, but I really want to recognize that. Nutrition services and transportation, both who I've spoken about many times, but I just think we're extremely lucky to have, those two extremely strong departments. WASC accreditations and international baccalaureate designations. We had Sequoia and Monty Gardens and Oak Grove and YV all here celebrating their IB designation. But then also, we just received word this afternoon that Concord High received a 6-year WASC accreditation. So that was good news. And before that, Mount Diablo High had been on probation, and I know that team really worked hard, and now they're off of probation, so they're back on a regular cycle. And that's just work that's been done. And again, this list could have been 50, it could have been 100, it could have just gone on and on. But I mean, really, just number 15 is that there really is a united focus on the needs and accomplishments of all students, and I think that is our greatest gift that that we've accomplished this year. When and we're a school district of 55 schools, 29,000 students, 3,000 employees, 58,000 biological parents and whatnot, right? I mean, you just do the math. A lot goes on when you bring that many people together. But generally, our students are happy, they're cared for, our parents are engaged, our employees are doing what they're trained to do, and overall it's been an excellent year. So just really want to thank this board for their leadership, for giving me my direction on how I go out and execute your plan and vision, and just looking forward to taking a couple days off and then starting this whole thing up again next year with a new crop of students and new challenges, but so many new opportunities that we get the opportunity to face. So without any questions, that concludes my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Clark. So we move to 15.0, the consent agenda.
I'd like to pull 1514, please.
And I want to pull 15.3 and 15.6.
Madam President, I move we approve the consent agenda except for items 15.3, 15.6, and 15.14.
Second.
Okay, that's a motion from Trustee Count and a second from Trustee Mayo. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. All right, so we move to 16.1, review and potential approval of exploring New Horizons multi-school independent service contract with Mount Diablo Unified School District for outdoor education in 2024 to 2025.
Okay, I pulled this one because as usual, they say that this is for kids to go to camp and that they will be taught about outdoors, but then it goes on to say that the people will have no contact with our kids. So I'm kind of find it hard to believe they don't need to be fingerprinted because they won't have direct contact with our kids. So if they're going to be teaching them, and if they're in a camp environment, I find it hard to believe that there will not be a time when the kids will not be around the camp staff without our count. I just can't see that you get a bunch of kids at camp that there's not going to be a time when someone's checking a restroom or a dining area where our staff won't be present, but the counselor will. So as I do always, I will be voting no because they are not requiring them to be fingerprinted.
I know we've had contracts with Exploring New Horizons for many years. Has this always been the case on these contracts?
We have, here we go. It's not that one. Yep, just hit the green or turn the, yep.
There, am I on? Okay. Yes, it seems as though they have marked that same box each year. We do have all of our teachers who are actually at the camp and are with the students at all times during the camp. And so they are all fingerprinted and supervising the students.
Right, we're gonna have, there's gonna be, our teachers are there, our parent chaperones who are all fingerprinted will all be there. And so it's not gonna be necessarily like the camp counselor that says, I'm gonna take these 5 kids off. They're always in a group. The group is either supervised by one of the group parents or by one of the teachers. So that's how all these camps are run, but I definitely understand the concern and definitely respect that.
Thank you for the explanation. Yeah, that is actually what I recall from when my kids went to camp. So,
yes. So there are staff members there and there are chaperones there that are fingerprinted.
Yeah. Okay. For this year, I will move to approve the independent service contract with Exploring New Horizons and Mount Diablo Unified School District to provide outdoor education programs to 15 elementary sites.
Second.
That's a motion from trustee Count and a second from trustee Mayo. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I just want to say thank you to all the Mount Diablo Education Foundation and other groups that have helped to ensure that more and more kids are able to attend outdoor education camps. I know it's something that at certain school sites that they've had for generations, where fifth grade have always had access to this, and at other school sites, they've had much less access to that. So I feel like this is getting us much closer to the goal of actually providing these opportunities for all kids.
That motion passes 4-1 with concurrence from our student board member.
Same song, different dance. This is the young audiences that when I was in after school, we had them come out and perform often, but we were told by the district office that they had to be fingerprinted, even though it was an assembly format with the entire staff and all kids in the same place. So I don't understand why that's not consistent. They should be fingerprinted, so I'll be voting no on this one.
I'm gonna have Miss Allen just talk about this for 1 second.
Just real quick. So I did contact them, and they said that all of our teaching artists and art ed partners have background checks and are TB tested through our DOJ process.
We checked the right box.
Yeah. I'll tell them. Thank you.
Thank you, though.
Madam President, I move that the board approve the independent service contract between Mount Diablo and Young Audiences of Northern California for services at Meadow Homes.
Second.
Okay, that's a motion from trustee Mayo and a second from trustee Nzewi. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member.
Yes. So on page 10, Exhibit B of the contract, both boxes are checked for fingerprinting. So that means fingerprinting is not required or fingerprinting is required. So I would like a clarification about this and whether the contractor will be left alone with the students, and is the contractor credentialed?
This is just like the young audience is the one before. They are in a classroom with a teacher there. I'm not sure where they marked both boxes, but they are in a classroom with a teacher. They're not left alone with students.
Okay.
Yes, thank
And
you.
then that leads a question to our legal counsel. Is it going to be a problem that they check both boxes?
It's not ideal, but I think you can correct the clerical error.
Thank you.
So thank you for that clarification. There have been, I guess, through Ms. Mason's and my questions, staff will understand that the safety of our students is very important, and we must be very careful about leaving students with others who are not credentialed through our processes. So with that, I will move to approve the independent service contract between Mount Diablo Unified School District and Clap Clap to Spanish for services at Monte Gardens Elementary School.
Second.
Motion by trustee Mayo and a second by trustee Nzewi. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. So that should move us to business action items. Dr. Clark, starting with the LCAP.
Yeah, so last week we held a public hearing and we shared our LCAP, and so tonight we are asking for approval on the LCAP. There's no questions.
I move that we approve the Mount Diablo Unified 24-25 Local Control Accountability Plan.
Second.
And I would just like to share, we have no public comment cards.
Thank you for that. That's a motion from trustee Nzewi and a second from trustee Cound. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
The motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. So we move to another item that we reviewed at our last item, 18.2, review and potential adoption of the Mount Diablo Unified School District proposed budget 2024 to 25.
Yes, Madam President. Again, last week we had held a public hearing. We addressed questions on our budget, and so tonight we are asking for approval, and there are no public comments on this.
Madam President, I move to adopt the 2024 to 2025 proposed budget. And I just want to point out again, I'm very excited that this is a positive budget. Thank you very much.
I'll second that.
Motion by trustee Count and a second by trustee Mason. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Okay, so we move to 18.3, review and potential approval of resolution 23/24, number 74, designating certain general funds as committed fund balance.
Yes, so this is a resolution that we have to put in place due to governmental standards and education code. But because we are going to be deficit spending, we have to designate or identify the estimated total, and so that is included in the resolution 23/24-74. So we are requesting approval on that.
They just came back. Madam President, I move the board approve the resolution 23/24, number 74, designating certain general funds as committed fund balance.
Second.
Motion by trustee Mayo and a second by trustee Count. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
You haven't missed anything yet.
We're not there yet.
It won't let me join the meeting again.
There.
Well, here we go. Put it in progress.
I got an error message and now it won't let me rejoin the meeting. I can go.
We don't want that.
Maybe you can log.
Here it comes.
log back in.
There you are.
Thank you, Tex. Oh, you're so good.
It seems to be slow.
That motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. So we move to 18.4, review and potential approval of resolution 23/24, number 75, education protection account.
Yeah, so this is a annual resolution that we bring. It has to do with taxes, and so we're asking the board to approve this.
I move that we approve resolution 23/24, number 75, education protection account.
Second that.
Motion by trustee Nzewi and a second by trustee Mason. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. So we move to review and potential approval of the Mount Diablo Unified School District 2024 to 25 proposed special education local plan area, SELPA. This is something that was an information item at our last meeting.
Yeah, at the last meeting, we held a public hearing. Dr. Aguili gave a presentation, and so we are, or she answered any questions that were present, but so we're bringing it back this week for potential approval.
Madam President, I move the board approve the Mount Diablo Unified School District 24-25 proposed special education local plan area, SELPA.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion by trustee Mayo and a second by trustee Mason. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
There it goes.
That motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Okay. So we move to 18.6, review and potential approval of the school plans for student achievement, SIPSA, for comprehensive support and improvement CSI sites.
Yeah, so we're bringing these site plans back with the CSI information included in the plans.
I move that we approve the updated 24-25 school plans for student achievement as presented for the following schools: Cambridge Elementary School, Fair Oaks Elementary School, Rio Vista Elementary School, Riverview Middle School, and Olympic High School.
Second.
A motion by trustee Nzewi and a second by trustee Count. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I just want to thank all the people who are involved at each of those school sites on developing those plans. It's with everyone's involvement and perspective and the specifics of those plans that's really going to reach those students and make the difference. So, thank you.
Okay, so that moves us to 18.7, review and potential approval of the early literacy support block grant annual report implementation year 3 for Bel Air.
Yeah, so as you guys know, Bel Air has been the recipient of a grant for the last couple of years. They've been focusing on literacy, doing training staff, and just doing some great things. And we have our team here, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. But I am just going to thank them ahead of time for their work and for all the wonderful things that are happening. She's trying not to smile, but all the wonderful things that are happening out of Bel Air Elementary School under Dr. McCauley's leadership. Let me give her the clicker so we can get the presentation on. Doing the presentation on this. Probably wasn't there, was it? Yeah.
Oh, so sorry.
Try. Let's see. It's attached, but they do the presentation separately so that they can broadcast them or whatnot. So
We'll introduce ourselves.
Yes.
Get the slide deck.
Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tamika McCauley, and I'm the proud principal of Bel Air Elementary School. Christina Felios, Assistant Director, Instructional Support. Thank you so much. Okay. I will start. It's really an honor to be here. The ELSBG, Early Literacy Support Block Grant, is a 3-year grant that Bel Air has been the recipient of and working on goals through the grant for the past 3 years. So a little bittersweet. We're at the end of year 3, so we are working out of the grant and into our sustainability plan for the site. It's really been an honor to work alongside Bel Air and their staff and literacy team through the grant.
So our year 3 goals were to continue collecting valid and reliable literacy data, systematically using cycles of inquiry with that data to determine what there might be gaps or skill needs for students and addressing those, really with a focus on foundational skills K-3. Continuing to train staff in the implementation of the foundational skills program that was purchased through grant funds, as well as the assessment tool. And really this year, our work as a site team and with the Sacramento County Office of Education was focused on creating a sustainability plan to be able to continue the work even in the absence of the grant funding. This year, these are some of the expenditures that were made using the grant funding. 0.5 program specialist position to support literacy, reading intervention teacher, a total of a 1.0 FTE, professional development, especially in foundations training, which is the supplemental foundational skills program. We increased the supply of materials in both foundations and geodes, which are decodable readers, part-time TOSA support, and then payment through timesheet for the literacy team to be able to attend training and work on the sustainability plan together. And so now I'm going to pass it to Dr. McCauley to share some of the exciting data results. Thank you.
Before I get started, I do want to acknowledge our talented and brilliant students and families at Bel Air, as well as our hardworking staff and the leadership that came before me, Mr. Robert Humphrey, as well as my co-administrator, Ms. Gascott. We really wanted to look at the data of students who were there day 1 of the grant all the way to the end of the grant, right? To be able to compare them as they moved along. So you'll see here, this next slide is our current second graders, where they started as kindergartners and then at the end of second grade year. So much progress has been made. The next slide highlights our current third grade students, same thing. All of the third graders who were there from the beginning of the grant all the way through. And then lastly, our current fourth grade students. And the progress that they have made from second graders all the way through the end of fourth grade here. As Christina mentioned, we did have to develop a sustainability plan now that the grant is over. Those site level supports are increased progress monitoring via our M-class, that is the data that you just saw. Continued reading support through an intervention teacher, and as well as increased family engagement and professional development with our partners with geodes and foundations. We actually have a professional development scheduled right away in August for the teaching staff when they come back. And the district level supports, and we thank those district level leaders for their support of this grant, the continued professional development at the district level and the in-class pilot that we've been able to have, as well as district-wide TOSA support. So we're very pleased with the progress that the scholars have made. Very proud. They've worked really hard. And that concludes my report.
Questions or comments?
I was just going to comment that Bel Air had a history of having brilliant students go through there, since I'm one of them. And then I would move to approve the annual report for the Bel Air Elementary School Early Literacy Support Block Grant. Both my daughters went there too.
I'll second it. Even though I didn't go there.
So I did have a question that I wanted to ask you. So first of all, congratulations on all of the hard work and clearly the successes that have come from all of that. As we look as a full school district at how we're teaching reading and the types of things that we're able to implement at each of our school sites, I know that we have a plan around the assessment tool. But one of the things that I see here is the those instructional materials, the geodes and foundations, the materials as well as the training around those. Is that something that now that you've tried it out for 3 years that you would recommend for other school sites to adopt if funding were available?
I can speak that our current training across the district, because not every site is able to perhaps purchase supplemental materials, but what we've done is instead look inward at the current adoption and kind of mining that for the opportunities for stronger foundational skills program, especially K2. So that's some of our work that our TOSAs have done and our science of reading groups have done. And that's going to be taken to scale across K2 next year and then into 3-5 as well. So, currently we're using our current core adopted materials because then we know every site will have access to that. And then as we move into adoptions in the next few years, we can look and see if there's something within a core materials or if it requires, an additional supplemental text. I think at Bel Air, the supplemental text was chosen because it's felt more explicit and it didn't require all of that preparation to pull it out of the adopted text, right? It was already a kind of a standalone foundational program, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, that all makes sense as far as what's been done with what current resources exist. My question is more, because it's also decodable texts for students, right? So it's in addition to, it's not replacing Wonders. It's in addition to Wonders. And so sometimes we get questions from nonprofit organizations who want to donate books, for example, right? So if we have opportunities that where the funding is available, then in that case, would you, from the school site level, having experienced these tools of geodes and foundations, do you feel like that's something that you would recommend to other sites if they had that opportunity?
Sure, absolutely. And that is actually the professional development that we'll be engaging in, the strategic planning around how to use those geodes at a deeper level.
Great. Thank you very much. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we move to 18.8, review and potential approval for the authorization of the superintendent to make interim appointments and board authorizations in advance of the board meeting on August 14th, 2024.
Yes, so this is an annual authorization that we bring every year. It just allows me to give assign temporary contracts to new administrators, new hires, and approve contracts as we're doing summer construction. And then the board will ratify it all when you all return on August 14th, I believe. So we're asking for approval. Oh.
Yeah. In summer mode.
It's frozen.
There we go. 18.8.
Madam President, I move that the board approve authorization of the superintendent to make interim appointments, create full-time equivalent FTE, approve provisional internship permits, variable term waivers, and board authorizations, and in advance of the board meeting on August 14th, 2024.
I'll second that.
Motion by trustee Count and a second from trustee Mason. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. So that moves us to 18.9, review changes to board policies and administrative regulations per California School Board Association, CSBA recommendations, December 2023 quarterly update.
Yeah, so these are, it's info only. You guys have a long time to study these next two items until, from what you've been used to, but as you can see, we've really been catching up in these and trying to get ahead of these. So this is just finishing up and getting us to where we need to be. So the next two items will be the same.
Much appreciation to all the staff work on that.
Thank you for the beach reading. Okay, so that moves us to 1810, similar item. As mentioned, thank you, Dr. Clark. Review changes to board policies and administrative regulations per CSBA recommendations, March 2024 quarterly update. So if there are any questions, we can take them, but if not, we can forward. Okay. So 18.11 is review and potential approval of the revisions to board bylaws 9123, 9123.1, and 9250. And this is an action item.
I move to approve the revisions to the board bylaws as presented.
Second.
Motion from trustee Mason and a second from trustee Mayo. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. So we move to 18.12, review and potential approval of Title I school-wide program plan for Delta View Elementary School.
Yes, Madam President, it's just the Title I plan for Delta View. Delta View became designated as a Title I school, and so here we have the plan to go along with it. And so we're seeking approval on this item.
Are there any questions or comments? And if not, we can take a motion.
I'll move to approve the Title I school-wide program plan for Delta View Elementary School.
Second.
Motion by trustee Mason and a second by trustee Mayo. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
While the technology is stuck, I will just note that I think Delta View Elementary School is very excited about this for their coming year. Apologies, our technology is acting up over here. Apparently it thinks it's summer.
And that motion passes. It's not up here, but I can see. And now it's in both places. That motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. That concludes all of our items for this evening. So I will adjourn the meeting.
Do we have items to sign?
We do. We do. Please stick around to sign some items.
Thank you, Carmen Garces.
Yeah.
It's her last meeting.
Thank you, Susanna.